All right.
And one.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Auburn School Buildings Committee meeting for December 17th. Or the 18th, sorry. It was scheduled for the 17th, but canceled because of snow and now 18th. Before we start, I asked if anybody else is recording the meeting, as we are recording it for live broadcasts and stuff. Seeing none, okay. I'd like to open it with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There. First item on the agenda is citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments? Nope. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from November 19th.
I'll make a motion to approve the minute meeting from November 19th.
Second.
Okay, any discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? It's a vote.
Aye.
OPM report. Dale.
Okay, just a brief update where we're at. Since last meeting, we finalized a contract with Fontaine Brothers, so they're 100% on board with us now, so we have the contract executed, completed. The next step with the MSBA, the 60% construction documents. If you remember, we just finished the 100% design development, now we're in the 60% construction documents. And Larry Pagano is going to give you a kind of overview of that today. It's due on the 20th of this week, so it's Friday. And what we're going to do, we're going to follow up. I believe the next meeting with us is going to be on January 9th, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
What we'll do prior to that meeting, we'll send you our cost estimates to show you where the cost is going. And that cost estimate is due on the 10th of January. So tonight, you're just looking at the scope in the building. So we'll follow up with the pricing. The last meeting, we talked about the trade contractor pre-qualification subcommittee. So this is where we need some volunteers. One, potentially two from this group. So seeing there's only 7 of you here, we need 2 volunteers. And again, this is just pre-qualifying all the subcontract. The same thing we went through the CM, but there's a lot more of it. You know, Skanska, Larry Pagano, Fontaine, we're all part of this group as well. So we'll divvy up the work and we'll have support out of our office to help too. So with that being said.
Just to help everybody along, is all of it going to be in terms of meetings, or is some of it electronic and you can read through the stuff and come back to meetings?
Yeah, a lot of it. We'll basically what we'll do, we'll have a meeting and sit down and make sure that whatever time we meet, hopefully it'll be during the day, or we'll limit the meetings. A lot of it will be done electronically, and the same thing, look at the packages. And if you remember from the previous notes, we just look to make sure that they have the bonding capacity, the staff, to make sure that they're not overwhelmed with existing work. So a lot of it's pretty simple. Safety record we'll look at. So a lot of things that we just want to make sure that they're qualified. And this is just a qualification process. So.
Everybody's awfully quiet.
I don't have any background on any of that stuff.
Joe?
Joe?
All right.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Joe?
I'll jump on the hand grenade.
All right, there we go. All right, perfect. We got our 2. The other thing, structural peer review, we're required to do a peer review. So next meeting, prior to that, we'll actually put a little bid tab together. We'll get some bids for a peer review. So at the next meeting, we'll give you a breakdown of, we're going to receive 3 structural engineer quotes to review the Larry Pagano design drawings. So that's something that's on here that we're going to look for approval from this group. And again, it's minimal dollars. It's just a peer review. We also we had the commissioning agent, WSP. Again, just to remind everybody, they're assigned by the state. They'll come in. They'll look at, starting now with us, they're going to look at the drawings and specs. They're going to put together basically what they're going to commission in the building. So they're taking the 60% that we have now and then go through it, because it's very generic what they gave us. So what they're going to do now is go through it and make more detail for Auburn Middle School. So again, they're on board with us. So with that, Eric, go over there. Any questions?
No.
So
Mike?
as Dale noted, we've been working hard on the 60% submission, and a big part of that is responding to the issues and the comments that MSBA raised in their review of the design development documents that we submitted in October. They've also had their commissioning agent look at it. The commissioning agent hires an exterior envelope consultant as well to look at things, and that's the exterior wall systems, the roofing. As a result of that, we've made a couple of changes. We changed the type of roofing from TPO to PVC. It's a heat welded system. We've changed the cavity wall insulation to a mineral wool insulation, which is non-flammable, which gets us out of some of the issues associated with foam insulation in the walls. But all in all, it's a good process. We get another set of eyes on the drawings. And as I said, we've been working hard on that, and you can, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at these, but the documents are here, and we'll be submitting additional copies to the building committee and others. Actually, they're in my car now. Early bid packages are on schedule. We are moving ahead to release the site package on January 17th. And the way we're approaching that is we're going to finalize the site drawings, site civil and site landscape drawings and specifications, including the front end specifications, Division 0 and 1, and those are the general requirements and bidding requirements for the project. We'll issue those along with the latest version of the rest of the drawings, because we want to give the site contractors the context of the entire project. So they'll see the whole thing. They'll be bidding on just the site work at that time. And Fontaine will be giving us instructions to bidders and that sort of thing, just to clarify what's being scoped for the site work. Foundations and steel will follow in February, early February, and we'll treat that much the same way. Alternate number 1, the geothermal well system, just an update on that. We did have some comments from DEP, and one of them was a comment to the Auburn Water District, where they made a comment that the system should be a closed loop system. And the problem with a closed loop system is it's less efficient, costs more. But they were making this comment because of the proximity to the well. Our engineer contacted DEP, and there was some back and forth discussion about this. DEP has responded saying that the open loop system is appropriate for this application, and that's what we have designed. The reason, just to make a long story short, the reason for this is the reason for the initial comment was because you have a town well fairly close by. A geothermal well system, an open system, does release some water into the aquifer. That well, however, the aquifer is very shallow. It's only about 40 feet deep that it draws from. The geothermal wells will be approximately 1,300 to 1,400 feet deep. They draw from an entirely different aquifer, so there's not the concern that there'll be that mixing of the water from the well system here to the well system there. And DEP is on board with that at this point. We have looked at an updated life cycle cost analysis. And that was because of the fact that initially we had a lower, the estimated number was lower for the geothermal well system. We wanted to make sure, I think we had told you that there was approximately a 9-year payback on that system. Because as we've gotten into more detail, and the estimates have gone up for that particular system, to the point that the payback right now we feel is in the 13 to 14-year range. Our recommendation right now is to proceed as we are with this as an alternate and find out what the cost is. You don't have to accept it. It's going to be bid both ways. Base bid, you'll have your conventional DX cooling packaged rooftop units for the areas covered by geothermal. But you'll also have an ad alternate price, should you decide to accept it, that would change, that would add those geothermal wells, all the piping associated with it. It would change the rooftop units at the media center, the admin areas, the cafeteria, band chorus room, the areas that are being cooled, you know, pretty much all summer long. It would change those rooftop units, it would add a chiller heater. So it changes some components of the building. But you'll find out exactly what the cost is, and you can make a decision at that point, whether it's something you want to pursue or not. At this point, you know, the system is basically designed. That's our recommendation now. There's also some potential for some grant funding, which I may have mentioned before, to lessen the cost and make that ad alternate a little more palatable. We've done a little bit of research, and we feel that there's potentially some rebates in the area of possibly $75,000 to that. Any questions about that system?
If the through you, Mr. Chairman, if the geothermal is alternate number 1 and we have alternate number 2 or 3 or 4, do the alternates have to be taken in order
No, they don't.
No, because we're,
like they used to be?
Because it's chapter 149A, it's not.
right, we're not under the 149
Okay,
like the high school.
okay.
It's not
Just want to
required.
make that,
Yep.
okay.
Just one question through you,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Does the geothermal well system provide us with any extra points towards the construction costs?
Reimbursement.
Not in terms of mass chips or anything. It's,
Yeah, I mean, in terms of our reimbursement, we already got to our limit that we, or the level that we need to, so we can increase that to 2.5%, added onto it, so I mean, having it or not having it, it's not gonna take that 2.5 away.
Okay.
The next item, the National Grid rebate program. We've been in contact with National Grid. In fact, Dale invited the National Grid rep that deals with their comprehensive design approach rebate program to our last pre-con meeting, and they spoke to us. This is I think I've described this before, but it's a program where National Grid will look at all of the energy saving features in your building, and they can look at it 2 ways. One is they call it the prescriptive approach, where they just assign if you use a certain light fixture, they'll assign a value to that, and they'll pay you $100 or so for every fixture of that type that you use. The other program is called the comprehensive design approach. What they do is they do an energy study of the entire building and energy use, and they come up with a list of energy conservation measures, and they'll pay you a higher level of rebates if you meet those energy conservation measures. And they're things like LED lighting and daylight sensors in the classrooms. A lot of them are things that we're already doing anyway. So there's potential there for some significant rebate dollars. One of the things they do is they conduct an energy study, an energy analysis, and they don't do that in-house. They actually hire a consultant. In this case, they've asked for a proposal from a company called DMI, and they do this for National Grid for quite a few projects. They've submitted a cost of I think it's in the area of $17,000. What they typically do is they co-fund this study. They ask the town or municipality to cover 50% of the cost, and they fund the rest of it. In this case, they are willing to fund the entire study if you implement at least 50% of the energy conservation measures that they come up with. So they're going to ask, I think we're asking tonight for a commitment from the building committee for at least half of that money, that $8,600 or $8,500. And I have the exact figure. Dale, do you have it? Okay. It's $8,532 to commit to that energy study, and then we would implement the measures. Many of them, as I said, are already in the project, the daylight sensors, the LED lighting, that sort of thing, the high efficiency motors and that type of thing. The 8532 is a worst case scenario. Chances are you'll implement most of these features, and National Grid will fund the entire cost, and you'll also see the rebates. So we recommend that you proceed with this. I described it this morning as a no-brainer. It's a significant amount of funding for the project from National Grid, and we've done this successfully on other projects. It's a good source.
I know his question's gonna be, but go ahead.
Hate to be repetitious, but do they, does National Grid get involved with the heating and cooling efficiencies that are electric?
They do. They get into electric. They don't get into things like the, gas-fired boilers. We're using high-efficiency boilers, but they're not interested in that.
Okay.
They are interested in the entire building, how energy use, electrical energy is utilized.
Mostly lighting?
Mostly lighting, but also, motors, if you've got fans, with big motors and that sort of thing, they'll look at those. And that's the advantage of that comprehensive approach as opposed to what I described earlier, the prescriptive approach. The comprehensive approach looks at everything across the board, and it maximizes your rebates.
Okay.
It wasn't a question, I thought it was. Good.
Mr. Chairman, now, where would the money come from, that 8,000, 8,200? And two questions, and then if they did implement it and it was 100% of the cost, would we get that $8,200 back? Is that the half of the cost up front, and we would recoup that, or is that 8,200 for our portion of the analysis, I guess you would say, or the study?
Okay, it looks like they will send an invoice for that amount, and then when the study is complete. There is money in the budget in terms of utility company back charges. There is a budget figure in there for that type of thing. There's also your contingency fund, which is pretty significant at this point, where the money could come from there as well. And you would get it back. It's almost a certainty that you would see that money back. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Dale, in terms of I'm not sure, I know we've done this in the past where National Grid does require a check at some point, but actually, I've never been involved with a project where they've offered to fund it fully, as they are in this case. So that's kind of a best case scenario for you.
But the thing is too, is if you don't do it, you won't get the grant money, right?
No, you won't. That's correct.
So if you look at the cost there versus the grant money, you're way ahead.
You are. Yes.
Thank you.
What's the potential savings from the grants? Is it
Uh,
a couple $100,000?
I
Yeah, it's
think
gotta be.
it's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not, it's a
Yeah.
pretty significant amount.
No-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I agree.
Joe knows that.
Thanks, Dale.
Heating, what type of fuel?
Our heating system is based on LPG gas, and we're proposing underground tanks just outside the kitchen area. And if you go with if ultimately you have the geothermal system, that you'll save about most of the time in the winter, you won't even need the propane, based on the geothermal system in combination with the electric heat pump. So you use more electricity, but you'll use less, much less propane. There'll be significant savings there.
All right, so before you go on there, they're gonna need a vote and approval on the 8532 to conduct the study.
I make a motion that we approve that.
Second it.
All right, any discussions, concerns, comments? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's a vote.
And the last item is just an update on the site permitting status. We've been to a number of meetings. We have just actually today received the final comments from Graves Engineering. Graves Engineering is the reviewer for the town. They looked at kind of a comprehensive site plan review for the Planning Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, and Conservation Commission. We received those comments today, and we're confident that we can easily implement the on-site related comments that we've received. The Planning Board hearing has been continued to January 7th, or 8th, is it?
7th.
7th, okay. At which time?
No, 8. Is that-
Either or.
No, the
I think it was
7th,
the 7th.
the conservation's 8th, that's right.
So we
Remember both days.
we're hoping to see the independent traffic review that was requested by the planning board prior to that. We have not seen that as of yet. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, before we jump into Fontaine's update for the moment, the drawings were out, the specs and stuff, they're here in the office. We're gonna need a vote or approval for them to submit it to the state for the 60% review, so might as well do it right now.
I'll
at
make
this
that
point.
motion.
Okay,
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
all right, any discussions? Comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's a vote.
I came in and looked at him. That's it. And I said, that's it for me.
Now, I just gotta remind you that tonight we are gonna have to go into recess for 5 or 10 minutes until the meeting minutes are done, so we can come back out and approve those meeting minutes, because it's gotta go in with the submission, so hang around. Thanks.
I'll give you a quick update. We've been working, Lamro Pagano, we went through a list of value engineering. There was 24 items, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, see if I'm ready.
And of the 24 items, there are approximately 7 items that have been approved for cost savings. Some things, to give you a quick rundown, some simple specification changes in terms of color selections for epoxy tops, integral backsplashes and sinks. Move some responsibility around for dumpsters.
Yep.
The eliminated certification for millwork in order to increase competition. And there is also an elimination of the FSC certification, since it really doesn't get you any points, to also foster more competition. As Eric described, you had a cost savings on changing from a TPO system to a PVC, which came back from the state. There is also a cost saving to replace the standing seam system, which is gonna now be replaced with a PVC system. There are some items on the VE log that we're waiting for some more information on, and I guess there are some items that the committee and architect want to look at, such as economy-sized brick, which was about $100,000 saving. We wanted to, I guess, look at some buildings so you can compare them. And there is The engineer is going to do some research on another fairly substantial cost saving, which is to use Victaulic piping in lieu of black steel for water heating piping. And there is one other item that is going to be determined is the wood floor system. We owe you some more information on that to change the type of floor system and use a different type of vapor barrier underneath the gymnasium floor. And we have one last one, which is to eliminate the AISC certification for the steel fabricator, which is something that we see fairly often on most jobs, and that also is to increase competition. That would allow Canadian steel companies to bid on the steel work, which is one of the primary reasons to have that, release that, or to not have that AISC certification, but that's gonna be something, I guess, subject to further discussion. We have a local outreach website, and to date, we've received, I think, like 9 inquiries from different people, some of which are, not real conducive to the type of construction that we're gonna be doing. However, there has been some interest from some companies that we will definitely follow up on, such as Maroyce out of Worcester, sidewalk contractor, R.H. White out of Auburn. They also expressed some interest. And other than that, a lot of the local outreach is subcontractors that would be looking to bid to some of the filed subcontractors. So we'll just kind of try and steer them in the right direction and continue to reach out to the local firms to enhance their involvement in the project. Schedule-wise, we are currently working with a consultant to develop a schedule. And in that schedule, we are showing the early release packages for site, steel, and concrete. We are anticipating a construction start of around March the 1st. And while you have now okayed a pre-qualification committee, the pre-qualification format will be the same for the site, the steel, and the concrete as it is for all of the other subcontractors that get pre-qualified. Whether they're trade contractors or non-trade contractors, the qualification process is pretty much the same. Other than that, we're gonna start working on our updated budget and anticipate having that in the first week of January, and we'll see where we are from there. Any questions?
That's not.
Not
Thank you.
this time.
Thanks.
All right, next item is approval of some invoices that are in the packets. First one's the Lamro Pagano one. Take a motion to consider.
Which one are we looking at?
I
What do you
guess the Lamro Pagano one first.
We have 2.
Is it two?
I believe it should be the 1207, 1311, with the number on the back side, the 307, 750.
Oh, okay. So you want a motion, make a motion to approve invoice number 1207-1311.
For,
We want, for 301,750,
307.
301. Where am I going? 307, 750, 00.
Second.
All right. Any discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Voted. That's just a statement. So then we have a Skanska invoice here.
Mr. Chairman, just for
Yes, sir.
clarification, I know that this has already been proved. I thought we entertained that $6,000 last week, at the last meeting. Or did we just discuss it in?
I think we approved it going ahead and paying it.
Oh, okay.
This is the.
And this is
this
the actual.
The actual invoice,
This is
yeah.
actually
They cut the check, got it to them,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Now for the Skanska bill. Somebody, okay.
Okay, is this the
That's
amount?
about, yeah.
What's the project invoice?
Invoice number, yeah.
Okay, I make a motion to accept Skanska invoice number 131-183-PDS-11967-21, and for the amount of $30,027.76.
Second.
All right. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So vote. Okay. The next item, any other items that the members want to bring forward right now?
Make a motion to adjourn?
No?
No?
Yeah, recess.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, yeah, we
Yes,
got a
hang
recess,
on.
that's right.
Do we have a definitive cutoff date for all these alternates?
I think it's more based on the bidding and actual construction schedule, right? The cutoff on the alternates.
Deciding on
Date.
all of these alternatives, like the thermo, geothermal, the
Turf
turf
field.
field and all of that, is there a date that we need to focus on?
Well, the geothermal alternate will be part of the HVAC filed subbid, which, as of right now, we're probably gonna see those filed subbids sometime in late April.
Okay.
At which time you'll have the amount to be, to make a decision. The synthetic field alternate, I think you could make a decision much earlier than that, because that'll be part of that I assume is being part of bid as part of the early site package.
It is. Now, I assume you're paying for that dollar for dollar out of the town?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it would be identified in the early bid package. Obviously, there's other costs involved that are not part of the early site work. Well, I shouldn't say that. We will try and, now that I think about it, we will try and encompass everything that has to do with the field in the early bid package, so you know what the total cost for the field is.
I'm just, the reason I bring it up, I just don't want to get to a point where we're under the gun to make a decision quick. I think it's something that needs to be talked about and decided on, and, I don't know what our meeting schedule is gonna look like, but certainly don't want to wait until the last minute.
Right.
Good point.
Yep. I mean, if you want, I mean, it wouldn't be for the next meeting probably, but if you wanted to, for one of the meeting after that, we could have the engineers, the green engineer or the mechanical engineer come in and talk more about the geothermal system and stuff, Eric?
We could, certainly.
That would be good.
Yeah. Okay.
date would you like to do that?
Well, I don't know, we haven't set our February date yet, our next one's the 9th, so I'd probably, you know, it's gonna be busy talking about the budgets and everything else, so I'd leave that one alone at the moment. Unless we needed to crunch it into that one or not.
My only comment on that is, you as a committee, and Eric, you'll have to back me up on this. The geothermal system is going to be an additional cost. So, I mean, you as a committee should decide if the cost is X, because he's gonna have to do a lot of work, and we would have to do a lot of work to incorporate that in the design of the building. Specifically, we're doing early release for steel. That does affect the steel framing. And there is a little bit of a difference between our budget for the geothermal and their budget, and I think Skanska's budget also. And I know Dale wants to get in touch with the state to see if, you know, if they're really interested in having you pursue that alternate. Because that is something that you do have to pay for also, dollar for dollar, out of your pockets.
So the two alternates are, number one is the geothermal, number two is the turf field?
That's correct,
Is
yep.
that the only ones we have
Those are the only ones that, you know,
right now?
right.
Okay. We may want to talk about the next meeting.
Yeah.
All right, I got a question on that too. Seeing those, the proposals, the bids and stuff like that, if that's an intricate part of your design, when would we have to start looking at this? And it would be contingent on the prices. I mean, the timeframe, like you say, that's to leave us a little bit of wiggle room to make a decision, at least discuss it. When would we be able to see these prices and things like that to get ahead of the site work of the steel?
You'll see the 60% CDs estimate in early January. I think we're looking to reconcile that, as Dale said, to submit it to MSBA before January 10th. So that's, things are pretty developed at this point. If you look through the drawings, you know, we should be able to get pretty accurate cost estimating at this time. So I think you're starting to have a sense of, you know, what the project budget is looking like, as opposed to some, you know, kind of vague contingencies. The contingencies, as we get further along, start to reduce. Your escalation gets reduced because we're closer to the bidding time. So you start to actually see what the real number is. It's not real until it's actually bid, but we're getting much closer with the 60% and the 90%.
Yeah, so on January 9th, we're gonna line up the budget with all the estimates, so you can see where we stand. And alternates are below the line,
this is what
this is
we're
exactly
talking
what
about, yeah.
the budget is for alternate one.
No, but this
two.
one says it's
You know,
not
again, the estimates, and again, just because we're under the budget, that doesn't mean we just
But
accept
this
the
one
alternates.
says,
Because I believe the state
maybe.
still wants us to go through the process of, you know, pricing out the alternates, because we identified them. And it's ultimately your decision if you want them or not, and then you have to decide, okay, what's the payback? We'll have more, like Eric said, we'll have more information on the actual cost of the geothermal, for the drawings are, you know, at 60%, pretty defined from what we had in the last, or a couple months ago. So you'll have more information on the 9th of January to say.
I was
okay,
gonna say, why
this
don't we put it on the agenda for the 9th?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can make it,
Look at
yep.
Plan to have Kevin Seaman here on the 9th.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'll speak as the rookie in the dugout, not knowing too much what you have to do to hit the ball here. But as far as these two alternatives, the notes that I had was the turf field is not reimbursable at all, so that has nothing to do with the mass people.
Yeah.
And geothermals, it said a maybe. Now, I'm hearing that that is something that they may bless.
No, I actually followed up after that meeting, and they basically threw an email, said they're non-reimbursable, even though it's green technology, but it's non-reimbursable.
The geothermal wells are
Or not,
that, so they're both not.
correct.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
So that,
So we're looking at the life of these programs and the cost and,
yeah, well,
Correct.
that's something else that feeds into the cost of it now, because that's not into the life cycle right now, that, you know, the 14
Yeah,
to 15-year
okay.
range. That, you know, we're gonna have a reduction in cost on some of the HVAC equipment, but you're gonna have increase on for the geothermal, but
Well,
the state's not gonna participate in that, so we're losing that portion of the reimbursement, you know, whatever we're taking off of that one and paying on this one. So it in effect adds to it in terms of what that the life cycle cost is
okay.
for the wells, so we need to study that a little bit more now,
Yep.
make sure that's in the calculation.
But if I'm wrong, we get grants or potential for grants because of geothermal, because of the green, the leads or whatever it may
Well,
be.
it's not through
No.
it's through a separate mass agency, but there is grant funding available for geothermal well systems.
So we can
You
take
would-
all that
You would
into
be
account.
eligible for that. It wouldn't be guaranteed, but you would be eligible to apply for that.
Okay, so we're gonna have hard numbers. If we X, Y, and Z, we go with,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Potential, huh?
We wouldn't be able to guarantee the grant funding until it's actually applied for it.
anyone have experience in that? Like what the potential is?
the likelihood of getting the grant,
Likelihood.
receiving the grants.
Our engineer hired a geothermal engineer who's optimistic about that. He was talking about in the vicinity of $50,000 to $75,000 potentially, but again, you know, we can't.
You don't know until the vote is
Sure,
taken.
You shouldn't assume that you're gonna get that. You should, if you're gonna look at this,
I mean, I think you should concern yourself about
I would take that out of the equation.
it. Absolutely.
Okay. And this isn't anything new, so I'm sure throughout the country, there's a specific number out there somewhere. Some research has been done, I would imagine, that for the last 20 years, people have purchased the geothermal, and for the last 10, 50% applied for the grants, 48% got them. I mean, there should be some kind of number out there, I would imagine, especially with,
We could look into it. We could try and get a feel for what the chances
Average,
would be.
okay.
all right, thank you.
All right. Anything else at the moment? All right, then I move that we go into recess for 10 minutes.
I'll make that motion to recess for 10 minutes.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're in recess.
Make a motion to come out of recess.
All right,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so our final item is to approve the meeting minutes from tonight that are in front of us and we've been reviewed.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the December 18th, 2013 minutes.
I second.
Any discussions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's a vote.
I make a
Alright.
motion to adjourn.
All,
Second.
second? All those in favor? Aye. Oop.
Making the second.
Bill, come lately.
Jump the gun.
We're adjourned.